In only 2 days, you can move your career further, faster with the Harvard DCE Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and move your career in the right direction. You'll earn a certificate of completion, add Harvard to your CV, and become the leader you want to be. Our intensive programs are designed to fit into your busy schedule. Attend online or on the Harvard campus. Search Harvard Professional and Executive Development to learn more.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Welcome to Purpose Driven Sobriety. Thank you for joining the Purpose Driven Sobriety Podcast. My name is Christine Cohen, and I am an alcoholic. Today's sponsor is the Sunshine Recovery House here in Waco, Texas. And I have Jennifer again on the show.
Hey.
Everybody knows Jen. How many times have you been on the show?
I don't know. 4?
A
3?
lot.
4?
Yeah.
This is the 4th?
4th or 5th, yeah.
Something like that.
So Jennifer and I go way back. If you've listened to other episodes, which if you haven't, shame on you. But if you have listened to other episodes, you know Jen and I go back years and years and years. Mm-hmm. She knew me pre-sobriety, and she's been an intricate part of my recovery. But Sunshine Recovery House is a women's sober living house here in Waco, Texas, that is just really a blessing to a lot of women here in Waco. Amen. So they are an official 501c3, so you can find information. They are definitely on Facebook, Sunshine Recovery House, and I believe you can find them at sunshinerecoveryhouse.org. So if not, message me and I can get you information on that home. So without further ado, Jennifer.
Yes.
Today is show number 52.
Wow.
We started this together, and we are coming this season.
That means
to
we're
a
playing
close.
with a full deck of cards.
That's right. That's questionable. But you know what? This has just been such an amazing journey. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to take a little bit of a break and let the seeds that we've planted, let God sow and do whatever He's going to do with those seeds. And this has just been a blessing, and I'm grateful to you for being such an integral part of this.
Well, thank you for having me each time. I can't believe you want me back every time.
Well, but you know what? we mesh, and it's been such a blessing. So we kind of debated on what we wanted to talk about on this show today. So we're just going to kind of wing it. Jen said when she came in, of course, I had the fishbowl here. You know, we got the purpose-driven topics in the fishbowl, and so.
But we both have ADHD, and we get bored easily. So
she looked at that and said, "I don't want to do that. I have questions." So I'm going to let Jennifer ask me questions. By the time this show airs, I will have celebrated, 12 years in sobriety. March 14, 2012, by the grace of God, He saved me from myself. And you, ma'am, your date is?
September 7th of 07.
07. Mm-hmm. So you're old.
You say
I tend to do that a lot, don't I?
I know. But I don't.
But would you expect anything different?
Yeah, I'm probably not.
It would be weird if I was like, oh, yeah. That's a lot.
In a lot of ways, it feels because I'm so different than what I was before. Mm-hmm. That it feels like a lifetime ago. Mm. And then I work with a newcomer, and then it's like it brings me right back to where I was, like it was yesterday. That's and I know, and I'm glad that my memory can do that. That God sees that He takes that part and reminds us and gives us a shot of humility every once in a while. I've seen people grow in this thing who are, maybe just a week or two, a month sober. I've seen people who are, my age and stagnant in their sobriety and not growing. I had a pastor say one time, if you're not different than you were a year ago, then you're not growing. You're not getting the deal.
Well, and what's not growing is dying.
Right. If you don't grow, you go.
Right,
that's what they say. And those little sayings. And so, I think it's just really important. It's like we give chips for time, right? We give chips for time. I was thinking about this on the way over. And that's great because of the milestones. Like when I got a year, I felt like, and I remember your first year anniversary, I felt like I should have gotten an Academy Award, or
and a very fancy diploma.
Yes, and so
signed by all in attendance.
But I also, on some level, I just thought that I had graduated at some, in some degree, I'd graduated. And so the way God works is like, no, you don't graduate. You're going to continue to grow, and you're going to continue to understand that you are way more selfish and self-centered than you ever dreamed possible.
But isn't it beautiful too, to speak of what you just were talking about a minute ago? Isn't it beautiful too how yes, he does that, but he also allows us, when you just said, working with a newcomer, you go right back there, although you have from 07 to, do the math. How many years is that?
16 years and some.
He doesn't allow us to get that sense of accomplishment and everything so that, because he's like, wait, if you are the graduate and you have arrived, how can that person relate to you?
Right.
So he allows us. It's a lot of people think when they're sponsoring, they're afraid to sponsor because they don't want to go back into the darkness.
Yeah.
They don't want to feel those feelings again. But it's like, no. You have to see that as a gift. God saying, I need you to remember.
Right.
I need you to feel that just for a second so that I can use you to reach them.
Absolutely.
They won't have ears to hear you if you are above them. And what the hell's the lady's name that talks about shame all the time? Brene Brown. She said, when two people get together like that, it's not a meeting between the healed and the unhealed.
Right.
It's a meeting of equals.
Absolutely.
And I think we get a lot of sassholes in the rooms of AA.
Yeah.
That think they know it and literally throw as weapons terms and passages from our book.
Well, and I've been guilty of that, Christine. Everything. It's so funny. I was talking to my sponsor, and I told her, I said, just sometimes, I don't know, I just get tired of people, in meetings. And she said, Jennifer, I'm pretty sure they're saying that about me too. And I went, oh,
well, that's rude.
but
and who is it? So I can go
right. And so, surely they didn't say that about me.
Oh,
and so, but she has a way of turning it around. It's like every time I accuse somebody of something, it's like, oh, I have that. I have that. And that's what I love about this, because that's exactly what sponsorship is. It's that identification, that's connection. It's like, okay, yeah, I've gone through these steps and I have worked this thing in my life, and this is how I have recovered, and that's what the book says, But we had a meeting last week at our home group, Cease Fighting, in Waco, and it's a women's closed meeting, AA meeting, and it was sponsorship. I chaired the meeting, and a lot of new sobriety in that meeting right now, and a lot of the new people kept saying the same thing. It's like, I don't feel like I have much to give, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you have an incredible amount to give, because because you're showing up, you have the courage to walk into the meeting when you don't want to, like when everything in you says just stay home, or just, that's not important, or that's not. But like every person that showed up shows that that it requires a lot of courage and a lot of pocketing the pride and, really, taking a step out on faith and looking at ourselves in a different light, in a group of people. And I'll even say women have a harder time with that sometimes in the beginning, because we have trust issues with other women. Right. And so like to come to a women's group and be newly sober and bear all. But I mean, I'm just blown away by some of the things that the women share. And so I get so much from that, where it's, I don't even want to hear what I have to say. I mean, it's like, whatever I have to say is like, whatever. So I love hearing that newness in sobriety, because that's what it's like a breath of fresh air, really. And it's like, no, it's great to be with somebody who's walked the walk, who lives this program out, and that's who I like to be around and with. But even more importantly, I really believe that newcomer, when they show up, I had a sponsee. She said, I texted her, "Are you coming to the meeting?" "I'm not feeling it, and I'm going to stay home." I'm like, "No, you're going to get your butt to the meeting." And she came in halfway, and she felt so much better afterwards. And it was like, if I hadn't have come, I would have sat in it. I may have drank again. Right. And it's like, it's seconds and inches, people. It's seconds and inches. We are seconds and inches away from that next drink. And, I just remember being new, thinking, this is my safe haven. These are my people. This is my tribe.
Can I
they
stay
get
here
me.
like 24/7?
Yeah, like, can
Don't
I live
let
here?
anybody else in the room.
Can I live here,
we'll
please?
send for food.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and as far as sponsorship, I didn't sponsor for the first 8
You were
years.
a staunch.
But you know what?
Yeah.
I didn't slam my fist down and say, I'm not going to. I was just like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. Thanks. Don't need that part.
Well, what's that? What was that? What was that about? I mean,
well, I came to know it was pride because when you just said that person said, I don't think I could do it. I don't think I have that much to give. It's like, darling, it's not about you. Mm-mm. It's about you getting out of the way and you allowing God to work through you. You just being the present. Show up and just trust that what's meant to happen will happen. And when I finally, because the first 2 I had, I was afraid I was going to, ruin them or, and it was just like, luckily, we Jen and I share a sponsor and I'm her favorite. And, and luckily, we do have a sponsor that says, I love you, but you're not that powerful. You didn't make them drink, did you? Right. I'm like, well, no, of course not. Well, then you can't make them stop drinking. You can't make them drink again. You need to get you all out of the subject and just show up. And so I was able to see. Now, of course, reflecting back, I can see that I needed to see those. And then, the next one, seeing the light come on. I heard someone say, oh, no, I was listening to the speaker tape. And I had the microwave spiritual experience. Others have what I call the crock pot spiritual experience. If you ain't drinking, that's a spiritual experience, honey.
In itself.
Don't lessen.
That's right.
You don't have to have unicorns flying in and rainbows and butterflies and sparks shooting out your butt to have a spiritual experience. It's not how it works.
No.
But I had that lightning bolt, bright light experience, and I wanted more of that. Shockingly. I wanted more of that. And what this speaker said is he said, whether it was a he didn't use the microwave crock pot thing, but what I heard him say, whether it's a microwave or a crock pot, if you want that again, if you want to feel that feeling again, you sponsor.
Right.
Because you get that through
and
other
you do.
people.
And watching other people grow and change and like go from a non-believer or just downright hating God. Yeah. For like and people have been through, and I have, I have spent a lifetime trying to recover from, trauma, and other people have, and people who have come to me who've had, experiences in the with their parents being in the 12-step program and not trusting that, and I have that experience too, and so it's like, watching them go from just downright, resentment, hatred of a God that they think they know to one that they have no idea exists, and what that means, and how that can be a positive force in their life, a positive power in their life, and they can change. It's just, there's people in our group, I'm sure you see that. It's like, I didn't do that. That was God. That was like, he showed up with and I pray with people. When we start our meeting, we pray and we ask God into it. And we, because that's who they need to be in contact with.
Right.
Not me. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because I think there was a misconception in my head about what a sponsor should be to me, and based on my experience with AA before, and what I had this expectation that they were going to be my best friend, or that they were going to be my my go-to person. And I don't know how I got that idea other than just by watching other people, or maybe the expectation was set by the sponsor herself at the time. But like, did you have an expectation of what a sponsor should be? I mean, I know you didn't have any idea of what AA was about.
I had an idea about what AA was about, but it couldn't be further from the truth. I didn't even know. Yeah, I knew nothing. Yeah. But for me, it says in our book, the word sponsor is not even in our book. Did you know that?
I knew that. Yes.
But it does speak of the same person visiting the same person, So, but for me, I did not have, to answer your question, no, I did not have a preconceived notion. But gosh, dog, I thank God for the sponsor that we have. Because she's freaking perfect. No, she's
she's not.
But the thing is what I encountered. She's my go-to. I'm able to use her now for foxhole things.
Yeah.
911 things. I don't need to call her every day.
Right.
I don't need to. But I still choose to run life things by her.
Sure.
Big, huge decisions, or if I'm feeling really crappy, I'll call on her and go, is this the truth?
Yeah.
Just because I trust you to go, yes or no. What made you think that? And I'll believe her.
Right.
Right. But I have had an experience with a sponsee that her thing was a sponsor is only to work the steps with someone, and then that's it, the 12 steps and you're done. And I'm like, I'm not that. I'm not that person. I'm not that person. I can't, because here's the deal. To me, I can only do what I've learned. Right. And I've learned how to sponsor from the best in my humblest of humble opinions. And I want to be a sponsor. She's damn good.
She's first
I
rate.
want to be a sponsor just like her. So
will swatch you if you say she's perfect, though.
No,
she does
I know,
not
I
like
know,
that. She
I
does
know.
not want us to put her on her
I don't
pedestal.
want to jinx
but
her
we
like
end up
that.
talking about her a lot, and I
To
think
me,
because
she's perfect.
and she's a wonderful lady. But I do think like she set the bar for me, and I think I had to unlearn how to be a sponsor from my experience before with it. Because I've shared this before, that I just showed up and I was like, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And you're going to, there are a lot of people who are very bossy like that. And I know that some people sponsor that way, and some people respond to that. That's great. I first of all, I have been prayerful about, who do you want me to work with, God? If you want me to work with somebody, send them to me. Because I don't want to mess around with anybody who doesn't want it.
Right.
Who thinks they should do it but isn't going to do the work. And so, this last year I had 3, like boom, boom, boom. And he had me getting back into those steps with those people. And I just like, you think you're helping them, you're going to grow from this.
Oh, sure.
And so I love the way that I'm doing it now, because it's simple. And if I can take me out of it, I don't know if y'all know about Back to the Basics by Wally P., but I use that as a guideline. And then, it references the parts in the book. And that has been the easiest, simplest way for me to sponsor people, to take them through the steps quickly, because the sooner they get to the steps,
which is how it was intended.
Yeah, and that's how they did in the beginning.
This was not if you and I'm sorry, you can choose to agree or disagree as you so choose. If you have a sponsor that's like 1 step a month, or we'll
in
wait.
a year
for
our
book,
fourth step,
look at the words in our book. It says at once and promptly, and we don't dilly dally. This gig was meant, if I'm not mistaken, to be taken in 4 sessions.
Right.
Back in the 1930s.
And I think you start having spiritual experiences early on. I mean, people look at the promises from step 9, and it's like, no, there are a lot of promises that begin even in step 1. So, and I can't quote them, but definitely there are promises all throughout. And, with every step I felt relief. With every step I felt relief. Step 1, I felt relief. It was like I admitted. I was honest.
Stop the bleeding.
Yeah, we gotta quit lying about everything. And so, especially the drinking, and the fact that I don't need help. You know, that's a big one. It's like, you know, if I can admit complete defeat, then I'm in a good starting point.
Right.
And so, yeah, I've been, you know, working with people and taking them through the steps. I actually got somebody who I know who's not an alcoholic, but who needs the steps, and I'm
That's
like,
amazing.
yeah, and I'm like,
well, there's
let me
emotional
take you.
sobriety.
Yeah,
I mean, there's like a wave of new meetings that are starting
Totally.
for emotional sobriety, and and that is in our literature. Bill
Absolutely.
W. talked about emotional
Right.
sobriety.
Right.
You know that you know not drinking is one thing. That's wonderful. I don't want to just be sober. I want to be recovered.
Yep.
And, you know, my dad was just sober.
Yeah.
And he was the most miserable person
know.
until the day he died. He was miserable.
There's nothing worse than a narcissistic, dry alcoholic.
Dry drunk. It's just, it's the worst.
Nothing
So,
worse.
yes, I'm so
Yeah.
grateful to hear you saying that. But,
Yeah.
and remind me, you know, I can't remember which show he was on, but one of the guys that wrote a little booklet that's anyway, on emotional sobriety. It's from the 12 it's, you know, it's
You gave me a
hand in
book on
hand.
that, didn't you?
I'm not
I think
sure.
you did.
I'm
Anyway.
not sure, but he's just very humbly putting it out. You know, that we need to talk further about this. We don't
Right.
talk about that enough in our meetings.
Yeah. And
You
so,
know.
so what does that require? Emotional sobriety.
Well, the steps.
Yeah. And
I mean,
continued.
It all leads back.
Right.
It all leads back. But I think when we can put it in that term, because people are like, I'm sober, I'm doing the damn meetings, why do I still feel so rotten? It's like, okay, well, because you're not emotionally sober.
Right.
We got to get you emotionally recovered.
Yeah, because I'm an addict. I mean, like, I am going to go to the thing that gives me a sense of ease and comfort.
And get more of it.
Yeah,
And if one's
and that
good,
is
two's
that
better.
has been the history of my life, and so, but really that walk in faith, that's been the biggest challenge. It's like, you know, I was reading my morning meditation, and it was talking about pride being the biggest stumbling block to receiving grace or blessings, because if I'm walking in pride, then I'm walking out of that, you know, self-centered, selfish fear. You know, I got to get what I got, and I can do it by myself. I was talking with one of my sponsees about, you know, like being newly sober, and, you know, a year after of course I get a year chip, and I think, okay, I've graduated, you know, I don't know where I got that idea. I mean, nobody ever told me that, you know, but I think what I thought was, you know, that I have arrived, that I'm far enough away from the alcohol, so I'm good now.
Well, and you feel a sense
Yeah.
of accomplishment because the book has 1 through 12.
Yeah.
And it's like, when I get to 12,
Yeah.
okay.
And I can't possibly
Okay, you know.
go back because I'm so changed. And so that's the fallacy.
don't
That's
we
the lie.
though?
That's the lie, because it does say the problem centers in our mind, right? And so, and I'm suffering from a spiritual disease and a sickness, and so, you know, that feeling like, so what it looks like is I start taking things on, right? So I get really, I can do that. I'm well now. I can physically handle that. So I'm going to take that on, and then I'm going to take that on, and I'm going to take that on. And
Which
so
is
pretty
pride,
soon, yeah, because it's all me
Right.
again, right? So
Well,
I'm running the show
and chasing
Yeah.
that sense of accomplishment. And I say, at least for myself, yeah, I climb up the steps, and then I just slide down the banister and start back at one.
Right.
I mean, it's just
It's like, and then
that.
I fall flat on my
Right,
face
right.
because my ego is hurt way easier now than it ever has been. You know, like, I think I was a little bit tougher when I was drinking, you know, because I had that, you know, false sense of
Buffer.
security and always. And so now it's like, I'm more vulnerable, you know, it's like, ouch, that
Exposed.
hurts, you know, like, I'm feeling lonely, or self-pity or whatever. And I fall faster. I don't know if that makes sense, but it seems like I can fall on my face faster because as I heard somebody say one time, my ego is the fastest repairing organ in my body. You know, it's like in 1 minute I can be completely deflated in 0.025 seconds.
It's like
yeah.
me.
You know, it's like easily resurrected. Yeah, like, oh, here I am again. You know, put on that lipstick. You know, so okay, I want to switch topics.
Okay.
Family. Okay, so this has come up with sponsees. So I did not have the experience of getting sober with the same man. So now I'm married to somebody else who I was already sober when I met him. So he didn't know me before. And he doesn't know the drunk Jenny.
Right.
He has no idea who that person is. And I'm so thankful for that. So thankful for that. So, but I think when you're newly sober, when you're getting sober, and you're trying to, like you and Rick have gone through this walk together, and you guys have a great marriage, wonderful friends. You're best friends. He's your person, and so like, what was that like? Was there any jealousy? Was there any like bitterness on his part about you attending AA ever, or how much time you spent on your recovery? Has there ever been anything like that in your relationship?
Yes.
Okay. Talk about that.
Well, starting out, of course, Rick, I'm not convinced he's one of us. I think he like has one foot in the door and one out, quite frankly. And I'm not saying anything, know that he would.
I love Rick.
But he, he thought he could teach me how to drink properly, right? He didn't know what he didn't know.
Yeah.
And luckily he found Al-Anon. But I remember him, and I've told this story on the show, several times, him coming down to the the rehab center that I went to treatment, and meeting with the psychologist, and him saying to him, the psychologist, Rick saying to the psychologist, she's the strongest woman I've ever known in my life. Why does she not have the willpower to take this on? And I remember feeling that was the first time where I knew something was either true or not true, and that was not true. Right. I was drinking against my will. I wasn't, So I remember that,
so
and I remember the resolve that if that's what you think, we can't. Which
is a pretty big admission. That is a pretty enlightening admission.
But I still didn't think I was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I just knew
you didn't fit the guy under the bridge with the brown bag.
Yes.
Right.
But so I came home and had a major relapse, and then March 14, 2012 happened, and God saved me from myself that day, in a profound way, and I knew I was sober. I knew it. I didn't know why. I didn't know how. I didn't know anything aside from I knew I was sober. I knew that obsession was immediately removed. Immediately. And I remember going home that day. It's saying to Rick, I'm never going to drink again. That's
pretty powerful.
And he's
like, whatever.
Right. Because he'd heard it a million times from me. I mean, come on. I'd said it a million times, and I meant it each
every time.
How many times did you quit forever? Right? Yeah. Quitting forever almost killed me. But within the first few months, I became I know you'll find this shocking, Jennifer. I became obsessed with figuring out
it's not
who
you.
saved me. Who was that? Whose voice did I hear? What was that? Why? And all the things. So I bugged the crap out of our sponsors. Like, give me more. Tell me more. What do I do? Give me this. Give me this. She had me writing novels,
Yeah.
But my daughter had made a pair of earrings for me, and it was just simple. I mean, to make a pair of earrings is super simple.
Right.
And I'm like, what did you do? Because they were just so cute. And she said, well, you just do this. And I'm like, oh. So I went and bought every single thing you could possibly own to make jewelry. I did. I bought every single thing. And I would stay up until 4 a.m, just feverishly making jewelry. And Rick was getting very upset with me. He's like, this is ridiculous. And he did call our sponsor, and he said, she is a freaking nutcase. And, our sponsor said, let her.
Right.
Let her.
Yeah.
So he was able to let me be. But Rick, and Rick, it was really sweet, because he said the other night at a life group meeting that our sponsor actually attends, and he said, I am the most content I've ever been in my life. I know God better than I've ever known God in my life. And that is because of this program of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Wow. Yeah.
And he has said numerous times,
Yeah.
and he actually said it the other night too. He said, I'm jealous that she gets to go whenever she wants, when there's a meeting, and be with people that are just like her. He said, because when she comes back to the office after attending a meeting, she's a different person. And he said, I don't have that.
So was that an ego deflating experience for him? Did he have his own journey with that, like not being able to get you fixed or keep you sober?
I think he worked out a lot initially in Al-Anon. He wasn't a full-fledged member of Al-Anon and only attended a few meetings.
Sure.
I'm just going to be honest, but it was enough to get him a taste of there's something out there. And then I tend to share and overshare. And I would come home because I was discovering things, Jennifer, that my spirit was coming, awakening.
You're an outward processor like me.
Yes,
you
and
talk it out.
I would go home and go, let me tell you what she said, and this is it, and this, and he fed on that.
Yeah.
And I think in his own way, I don't know that he worked the steps per se, because you're supposed to work the steps with a sponsor, but I think that he processed some of his things.
Sure.
And he's a much better person for it. So that's emotional sobriety right there.
What would you say to the person who's struggling in recovery, who's maybe married or in a long-term commitment with somebody who isn't familiar with the program, who's not one to ask for help, but who is watching their significant other go through these changes and feeling bitter? I mean, obviously, Al-Anon is a good resource for people, but how would you help that couple who's struggling with that? Because there's a huge divide between this is my life as an alcoholic, and now this is my life sober. And it's like, now I've got people in it. Now I've got phone calls to make and text messages and meetings. And all of a sudden you go from isolating in your own home, keeping everybody locked out so they don't know how much you're drinking, because hello, to I have a whole community of people,
and you're not in it.
And you're not in it.
Yeah.
How do you bridge that gap? And I know there's some chapters in our book that tell us kind of even warns that the wife may be bitter or whatever. But how do you do that? How do you
It is
talk to that?
It is my opinion that a spouse has to go with that person. A marriage. And again, this is strictly my opinion. My marriage probably would not have survived if he. I couldn't have stayed with him if he drank. Period. I required him. No, you know what? No, I didn't require him. Out of love, he said, "I'm going.
Yeah,
I'm not."
That's
I'm
pretty
not gonna
amazing
do
right
this.
there.
But again, I had a sponsee that got married, and I had told her fiance, you're doing this, you're going to have to go into her world. She can't survive in yours. I can't survive in a normal person's life.
Say that again.
You have got to go into, if you love that person,
Yeah.
and here's the deal. Oh, thank you, God, for those chills. If you have no idea how your life will change when you go into their world with them. Now, that is not where you're demanding that you sit down and tell me what you said and tell me what happened. It's like, just be a part of, be available, be curious.
Right.
There are open meetings. Ask your loved one, can I go to an open meeting with you? Be open to hearing what this is all about, because alcohol was not our problem. Our inability to handle life on life's terms. And guess what, spouse? you got the same problem too, whether you're willing to admit it or not.
Right.
It's just the way that it is because we're human beings and
Sure.
we're on a broken
Yeah.
planet. But if you love that person, you have to go into their world. They can't survive.
Love that. Christina,
in
it's so
yours.
important what you just said there.
It's crucial.
Yeah. See, my my second husband, the one that I got sober with, he continued to drink, but we didn't have that relationship where I felt. I just didn't feel the bond with him. I mean, we were married, and I was willing to make it work to any length, but he wasn't willing to get sober, and so there was still alcohol in our home. But but that rebellion in me and that firm resolve, and God knew He gave me that spiritual experience early on, so I had that taste, and I was like, that is way better than alcohol ever has been for me, and so I had the lightning bolt experience too. Thank God. And, he tried to get me to drink with him. He would shove it in my face. And I was so, at that point, so over it and over him and just sick of the shit.
That's because he was getting something out of.
Oh, yeah.
With you being
He
down.
wanted
got a
me back.
payoff.
He wanted
Right.
me back.
He got a payoff.
Yeah. And he definitely.
Misery loves company is a real
And that's
thing.
why I married him, because it was
Yes.
misery loves company. That's what I sought out, So, he wants to go to a bar with me. He's taking me out, But this husband, who has never known me drunk, did that. He has, out of love for me and respect for me. He's read the big book. He doesn't go to meetings with me. He's been to a birthday meeting with me, but he doesn't go to meetings with me regularly. But he's read the book, and he doesn't drink, in our home, and he keeps it separate. He out of love for me, out of respect for
That's
my
what it is
program.
right there.
It's respect.
Absolutely.
And so I think that, it's like, I think a lot of times spouses just want us to be fixed, on either end, because maybe they're addicted to us, the alcoholic. But I think that, I don't know where I was going with that. I just think that it's hard. It is hard for spouses, and it's hard for the sober person to bridge that gap because they're dealing with their own resentments and amends and guilt and shame, over events past. And anyway, it's just complicated.
Well, and I got to tell you, even to this day, 12 years later, I can't have alcohol in my home.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm going to drink it. That just means that I had to mentally establish a safe place where, like yesterday, it was so funny, Jennifer. I went to a Waco Chamber of Commerce networking lunch, and it was
as one does.
Oh, guess where this one was held?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, Southern Roots Brewery.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when I stood up, because usually Rick and I will go to those, and Rick is the salesman. He's
so
you know,
good.
we got all this at Cohen Mortgage
Y'all, he
Group.
really is a great guy.
He is a great guy.
Yeah.
But this time I said, I got this one. And he's like, really? Because you stand up and you give a little 60-second commercial about your business. I'm Christine. I have the Cohen Mortgage Group. We do mortgage loans. Well, I took the microphone and I said, I'm Christine and I'm an alcoholic. And everybody just kind of looked at me and started laughing. And I said, wait, no, you're doing it wrong. I said, you're supposed to say, hi, Christine. I said, let's try this again. I'm Christine. I'm an alcoholic. And everybody said, hi, Christine. And
I love it.
I said, here's the deal. I only say that to you guys so that you know that if you or someone you love is suffering from the disease of addiction, there is hope to where for your business you can stand in the middle of a brewery and give your commercial. I'm Christine Cohen. I have the Cohen Mortgage Group. I have for 26 years. And I went on into my spiel, right? But it's just one, so I can be anywhere.
Yeah.
I'll go buy it for you if you're having a party or you need me to pick up the keg or that's not the, but I have to have a safe place where I don't have to have any guard up, right? That I can just be the big old blob and comfy and Rick has to be my safe person, and he.
Well, let's face it. There's a lot of memories, of drinking in my home.
Yeah.
I own the same home.
Yeah, you do.
For 18 years
See, I don't.
now.
I'm not in the same house.
And so I have those memories. So, I mean, I could easily get triggered. And
show you where I hit it. Yeah.
Sometimes I get a flashback, and so I don't want to be triggered like that all the time in my own home. I mean, I prayed over my home, every room in the home. David's prayed over.
Yeah.
I'm
telling you,
Holy
Spirit,
like, doing the sage around the windows or whatever, so reading the scripture. Yeah. Yeah, so I totally relate to that. Yeah.
But it comes down to a relationship. You know, if the relationship is worth having, there are sacrifices that have to be made. And if drinking alcohol, if you think that's a sacrifice, okay. But if that's what it takes to make your person safe,
sure.
Again, the payoff that you will get going into their world. You just have no idea.
You're paying dividends.
It's worth it.
Into it.
It's worth it.
Okay, so next topic. God. What has God been telling you lately?
You know, my faith is only...
Because you practice two-way prayer. Like you.
Oh, I don't have an amen.
God talks to you, and you talk to Him,
and I listen,
and you listen, and same with me.
Prayer and medication, that too.
He is my medication.
Prayer and meditation, which to me, prayer is talking to God, meditation is listening.
Yeah.
But you know, it's funny because, and Rick and I were talking about this the other day. You know, I'll be 12 next week, and I'm literally, I have the spiritual, emotional mentality of a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, I've come to see that I was agnostic. I knew there was I figured there was a God because all the fancy people that went to the building with the T on top of it said there was, and they were, you know, but that just wasn't for me.
No.
But I remember, like I said, March 14, 2012 at approximately 11:30 a.m., someone saved me from myself, saved me from killing myself that day. I didn't know who it was or what it was. So on started the journey. And I remember standing outside of Cafe Cappuccino, downtown Waco, Texas, and asking my sponsor, who do I pray to? I mean, because I hear people saying, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. What is that? What is who do I pray to? Pick one. Which one? Who is what and who does what? What's their job?
Right.
Because I genuinely didn't know.
No, yeah.
I didn't know.
Right.
And when I say she's perfect to me because she said to me, she said, well, it depends on the emotional state I'm in at the time that I pray, because she's speaking for herself. And she said, there are times where I go to Daddy, the Father. There are times where I go to best friend Jesus, and there's time where I go to guidance, Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. So those three people hang out a lot, right? Or they know each other. I genuinely didn't know.
I think that's
and I think she found it cute, kind of thing, because she has a vast history of biblical knowledge and all the things. But she tolerated my juvenile, knowledge. And I remember that when I got sober, if I'm not mistaken, was the year, or at least I discovered it, it was mine, the Bible television show with Roma Downing. Remember that?
Oh, yeah,
was on television. Yeah. And I remember sitting in my house in China Spring, Texas, and I was watching the TV, and behind me was the kitchen, and there was a mirror, a window cut out where, if you're cooking, you can still see the TV and stuff. And Rick was in there cooking, as he often does. Thank you, Rick. But I was watching this, and they said something on that show that I had heard someone actually kind of say in the meeting.
Wow.
And I called our sponsor, and I'm like, did you know that? I was like, oh my gosh, she said the same thing. And she said, really, tell me more about that. She didn't go, yeah, Dunn. It was, she prodded my inquisitiveness.
Yeah.
She pulled it out where I was just like, oh, they know that. Oh,
right.
It was.
Yeah.
I look back, Jennifer, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was beautiful the way that God introduced himself to me through her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Through her tolerance.
Yep.
And through my sweet husband's tolerance.
Yeah.
Where I when I was just like, did you know that? And he didn't say, well, of course I knew that. Or, because he has a vast biblical knowledge.
Right.
They both held my hand.
Yeah.
While I toddled into the kingdom, they both held my hand until God's like, I got her.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful thing when I'm able to look back on it like that.
Vulnerability.
What about you? What was your take on God before
I'd been to church, and then they talked about higher power in AA when my mom and my stepdad were going through it, and I remember going to church camp when I was about 10 years old, and I remember even at that point, and my mom had been sober 2 years at that point, but I wasn't living with her, but so we had been going to church. That was something that my dad consistently did, take us to church. And I remember going to church camp and feeling very lonely for him, just lonely for him, and wanting to connect. And if I had at that point been introduced to two-way prayer, if someone had just, taught me that. But I do remember there was a moment where I felt a little bit of a connection to him. And I think that seed was planted, a long time ago by God himself. Mm-hmm. Yes, God connected with me through our sponsor and different people along the way. But really it's been God consistently trying to reach out to me. Mm-hmm. And I see that now. It's not people. The people are the channel.
Right.
And
the assistants.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's that connection, but it's having the faith of a child. It's like when I am that vulnerable, I'm teachable. Mm-hmm. I'm more likely to surrender on my knees. God, I can't do it. You're going to have to do it. I can't take my life, take my will, take my family, take my house, take my job, my career, my marriage, my kids, grandbabies, everything that I have worth anything, take it. Mm-hmm. Just take it. And I surrender it to you. And, it's not my business. It's just really not my business what God's plan is for my life.
Mm-hmm. That's hard.
It's that I have, and I saw a guy on video the other day, just blew me away. And he said that. It's like asking God for the secret plan. Just show me.
If you got it, you couldn't handle it.
Well, and it's like, what is your will for me? What is your will for me? I don't remember how many times I've asked that in the last, even just few years. Like, what's your will for me? What do you want me to do? Can you just tell me?
Want?
Like, just send me the memo, And then he said, it's to have joy. It's to pray.
No matter what, yeah.
It's to be thankful. That is his will for us, is to have joy, to pray, to be thankful. It's from Nehemiah. And I'm like, that's God's will. My will isn't to do. Mm-hmm. His will for me isn't to do. It isn't to,
to be.
Whether I'm supposed to be a dyslexia therapist or an MCN provider, it doesn't matter what I'm doing for a career or a job. Mm-hmm. It's how I am supposed to live out his will for me in having joy and being thankful and staying in prayer. And I suck at that. I'm just going to tell you, I suck at that. That is my daily walk. That has become my daily walk, is how, if I can get connected with him through meditation, prayer, two-way prayer, I am more likely to be in joy. Mm-hmm. I'm more likely to have that peace.
That surpasses.
Right. And it doesn't matter the outcome. Mm-hmm. It's like, I just remember, that's what took me so long in this deal. It was like, the fact that I didn't drink before now it's a miracle, because there were a lot of times where I wasn't living by faith. Mm-hmm. I was living on my own power again, on my own will, on my own self-interest. And what that got me was more resentful because people weren't acting the way I wanted them to. Mm-hmm. They weren't doing what they should have been doing, or behaving in a manner that I think they should be behaving in, and if they only would, my life would be so much better.
Page 417.
Yes. And it's like, that book defines me to a T, and I see that more now than I ever did. I
heard that. I was telling you, I was listening to a speaker tape, and he said, and here again, don't send me messages. I know there's clinical depression, but he said depression is anger at God that he didn't do my will in the past.
Yes.
Anger is he's not anger at God because he's not doing my will now.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety is fear and anger at God that he won't do my will in the future.
Yeah.
And that put it all into perspective. And going back to our sponsor was a God to me until I was able to grasp and have the knowledge of who God was.
Right.
He used her voice to me.
Right.
When it was so loud in my head that I couldn't hear anything but a human being saying, hey, and a stern human being. I wasn't allowing him to
Well, and a lot of people who are very religious say, well, I don't hear God's voice. And one of the things that Wally P. says in that book, Back to the Basics, is one of the things that keeps us from hearing God's voice because he's talking all the time.
In so many different ways. That's the adventure.
Right.
That's the adventure.
And one of the reasons that we can't hear is because we're resentful with him over something. And so or we haven't forgiven somebody for something. So when we're hanging on to that anger, it's harder for us to hear God. Not that he's not talking to me. It's just harder for me to hear.
Anger and resentment's louder.
Right. Yeah. And it's just
like
God
doesn't shout.
No.
Nowhere in the Bible does it say Jesus raised his voice and screamed at somebody.
Well, he did flip up tables.
Or that he ran. He didn't run nowhere. He didn't get no hurry. It was, But even when he flipped tables, I can't imagine he was ranting and screaming.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think he was probably obviously in an elevated voice.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I'm still only 12. Watching The Chosen.
Oh, yeah,
watching
it's great.
him. Oh my gosh, it's just Rick and I are going to see episodes 7 and 8 tonight of season 4.
There's
and
so many
just,
options for that now. I love it. Well,
so good.
I used to wake up. It was so funny because I used to wake up with these earworms, like something from the book. Like I would always wake up with a thought from the book.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen.
Yeah, and like this morning, it was we realized we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass. And there's
Not
more
that
to
you'll
that.
learn more.
Yeah.
Not that you'll do more.
Right.
God will disclose.
Yeah.
You just have to be ready and willing and able
Yeah.
to receive that.
I know. It's less me, more him. Less me, more him. And then the other prayer that I always pray is, bless them, change me. I don't know about you, but like it's kind of addictive to do this changing thing. Like, and I think sometimes I can take it to the limit, like to the, because we always underdo or overdo everything we do.
Oh, sure.
Ken used to say that. We always overdo or underdo. But God bless Ken. He's gone to the big meeting in the sky now. But he had a huge impact on our group, Ken S. And he'll forever be remembered for that, how much work he did with alcoholics. But so I always overdo or underdo. And so overdo, definitely, it's like, I can quit like going, trying to look for the thing in me that needs to be fixed. That's something else that our sponsor taught me was like, you think that you're just going to be like free from these character defects
And not have any problems.
right.
Once you solve
And it's
all of them.
right. And so it's like, Jennifer, that's not how this
Cease
works.
fighting.
Right. And so you don't have to go rooting around. God will constantly disclose to you.
When you can handle it.
Right. And so
Right?
and I trust that the people around me are going to say, yeah, knock it off.
Yeah.
like,
or that's just not true.
like that's pride, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Like, who do you think you are? People, people aren't sick of you, like, who do you think you are? And I've given people permission to do
authority.
that,
Right.
and it's like, I trust that because people are walking the same walk, that they're going to spot that inside of me, but I don't have to go searching and looking and trying to
Because
pull
when we
it
do
out.
that, we start beating the shit out of ourselves.
Well, and it then becomes me removing it from
Right.
me and not God removing
Right.
it from me. And it's like, maybe he needs that
Right.
thing.
God
in
saying,
you.
"I didn't
It's like
bring that to you."
the best character defect that I had was rebellion, because of, when my ex would put that whiskey in my face, and I mean, like, I had that rebellious streak, like, like, you don't have anything on me, buddy.
Right.
Like, you just watch me.
I'm gonna not do it despite you.
Yeah. I mean, I can get really down dirty with that. And so he gave me that gift at that moment, and he used it for my good, to keep me sober,
right.
And so it's like, okay, if that's what it took, that's what it took,
right.
So who am I to say, I need to be rid of that? I need to be rid of this. I don't need to be rid of this and that and this and the other. It's, God, what do you want me to do?
Right.
How do you want me to behave? How do you want me to, give me the thought, give me the words, the thoughts, and the action. Give me the words, the thoughts, and the action, and usually he does. So, yeah.
I love that topic.
Yeah. God's
what else
good.
you got? We still got a few minutes.
One day at a time. Let's just throw that out there. One day at a time. How do you do one day at a time?
I don't.
I know.
I mean, as a rule, I don't. But when I do, I feel better. I mean, it's one of the things, and it was Anna who in our meeting who said
Love
it first.
Anna.
You know how I love it when you can
yes.
you hear those just lightning bolt terms in the right moment, and you never forget who said that first.
Yes.
You know a gazillion people have said it.
Yes.
But when she said, "Live where your feet are," I thought, what the freak does that mean? What does that even mean?
Right.
And now, even with sponsees, even with anybody, my kids, I did it with my son when he had a real bad car accident. He was spinning, at days later, he was still upside down in that flipped over truck. He was still there days and days later. So, I mean, so when he came over, I was able to make him take his shoes off and feel the floor. What do you feel?
Yeah.
Is a car, now put your foot over here. It's cold. This is where you are.
Right.
Be right here, right now. And what I have found, I don't practice. I try. Progress, not perfection. I try. And luckily, just like you, I surround myself with enough people and enough tools to remind me.
Right.
This is where I am, because if I'm not here with you right now, I'm robbing myself. If I'm worried about the file that I've got to work on the minute I leave here, because if it doesn't work, then I'm not picking up all of the beautiful things. And our literature is wonderful, because our literature
So exciting.
And it's one of those things where I'll read something, but I don't read the words. We have to read the words in our book.
Yeah.
In our preamble, it says, "That one is God. May you find him
Now.
It doesn't say next week, next Tuesday, 5 years from now. Doesn't say yesterday. It says now, where I'm never at.
Right.
I'm hardly ever in the now.
Yeah.
Which is one day at a time. It's in this day. When I can bring myself into the now, that's where God is.
Yeah. And it's interesting, because I can, for whatever, and Bill says that we go sometimes through a state of rebellion where we absolutely will not pray.
Right.
We just ask for the willingness until it comes. And I love that, because I'm keeping
grace.
Yeah, it gives us grace. And it's like, okay, God knows me well enough, and I don't think he's angry with me about that. I think he gets sad because I'm withholding from myself the blessing.
Same way you would if Josie was doing that.
It's like, well, if you're going to keep doing that, you're not going to get the blessing, so.
And I'll be here when you're ready.
Right. And so, just being like, even if I feel like, okay, I haven't been doing this right, or I'm in this pattern and I'm stuck in a rut, it is so quick, the answer. Just stopping and praying and asking him to just, for thy will to be done. Even if it's that simple of a phrase, thy will be done.
Right.
But having that, that quick moment with him can set everything right on the right course. That's what's amazing about it. It's like, I don't have to do penance. I don't have to do 15 things or say a bunch of chants or prayers in order to, or earn back that serenity. It's just available to me in that moment when I stop and I ask him for it. That's it. That's all that's required.
Just like a perfect.
It's so simple. Yeah. It's so simple. And I love that. So, yeah, one day at a time is hard for me too. And not getting, but I do feel like.
That would have come if I'd have gotten that damn diploma. I'd have it by now. I'd have been master of it.
Right.
Jeez.
What do you get at, how many years is it? 12? Almost 12? What do you get at 12?
Oh, see, no, I'm still, if someone were to ask me today, how many years do you have? I have to say 11. I know. But I mean, that's no different than, like, if I'm 16 years sober and someone says, how sober are you? I'm almost 25 years. Well, I mean, like, I was even a week, like, and I'll never forget this. When I spoke at the International Women's AA Conference in Dallas, Texas, I was on the speaker panel, and I was in the chair person who was chairing that group. She came by and she's trying to figure out who she was going to do it in, incremental, whoever had the most of blah. And I said, at the time I said, well, it was in February of last year. Yeah. And I said, well, I'll be 11 next month. She goes, so you're 10. Right. And I'm like, but I'll be 11. And I was so offended and butthurt when she did that. I'm like, you.
Yeah.
Oh,
and you're right.
I hate that part. But it's true.
Yeah.
It's either pregnant or not pregnant. It's not kind of pregnant.
Yeah.
Is how the analogy that I use with myself even. It's like either it is or it isn't. Stop it with the trying to fudge.
Right.
I'm notorious for that.
Yeah.
Just trying to get a little bit more that's
but
not
what does that
mine
mean?
to take yet.
But what does that mean if you are? I mean, like if you're...
Because it's more, I feel more pride when I say I'm 12 instead of 11. Yeah. Just like a typical 11-year-old.
Yeah.
If I was
I got an iPhone 14 instead of an iPhone 13.
If I was an actual 11-year-old and you asked me how old I was, it would be bizarre for me to just go 11 when my birthday's in 6 days.
That is typical 12-year-old behavior.
Right? I told you.
11-year-old
so
behavior.
So I get a pass on that, I think. But not a pass not too far, though, because people will just call me on my shit.
Yeah.
And I hate it.
Yeah. And you were worried we'd have to go to the
I know,
fish
we
bowl.
didn't go to the fish bowl.
I just came in and surprised you. I was like, let's not do that. Let's just do something else.
Well, you know what? Nothing happens in God's will.
I don't think you and I are short of any words.
I don't think we are either. Yeah, I think our sponsor, if we were in a classroom, would set us in different.
She can't handle us both at the same time.
Her brain would explode. Well, I love you.
I love you
and
too.
I'm so glad that you started this journey with me. And
I'm so
this
proud of you.
That we're about to make.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. This pause that we're about to take. That you're here with me.
So what is next for you?
You know what? Here's the deal. I don't know, and that's okay with me. And it's bizarre that I'm even saying that because I'm just willing. I'm willing. Whatever God wants me to do, I'll do. Yeah. I just, and like I said, I have people around me that I trust to, because I'll get an idea and believe it's from me and I'll kill it. I will kill it. So I need to become a little bit better at going, this is what I'm thinking. Is this stupid? What am I doing? And just to make sure, because I get, our sponsor, she said we were having lunch one day.
Let's lay it on me.
I was telling her about all these, and I do this.
Maybe I can apply it too. Go ahead.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, and this is what I'm going to do, and if God would just show me, I would just, I could go running. And she said, the way she does, she comes from Arkansas, and she said there's horse race tracks there. And I'm like, yeah, I've been to one of those. And she said, they're beautiful thoroughbreds. They bring them down, they walking them down, their jockey or their handlers walking them down. And there's these gates that they have to put them in, right, to prepare to take off to start the race. And she said, so they'll file them into this little bitty, that they fit into. And she said, but sometimes they're so excited, they get moving around and, rearing up. And she said, sometimes they have to take them out of the starting gate and walk them some more to calm them down.
Yeah.
And she said, you, my friend, are being walked. And I'm like, son of a brah.
Yeah.
I hate that, but I can see where that's
true. It fits, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's true because I want to do, just like a typical addict, God has blessed me, in my humble opinion, way more than I deserve. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I do. He's given me these nods and these interactions, and with Path of Jewels and with this podcast, just in so many areas, so many God experiences.
Yeah.
It's like I want more of that and more of that and more of that. So I'm like ready, and I'm
Yeah.
and I have to pause, and I have to just rest and know that He will disclose.
Yep.
And when that disclosure happens, I almost don't have a choice to do. I mean, I have found in my history in these past 11 years and 300 something days, I have found that when it is disclosed, the will and the readiness in that gate, I'm there and I'm ready.
Yeah.
And it's something I want to do,
Yeah.
but.
Well, he's used your gifts all the way around, and you are a joy-filled person, Christine. Like anytime I see your posts, and they're real. I mean, those aren't posed,
Right.
because I see it with because I see you two at the office. Like that's not fake. It's very authentic about you and Rick both, and so you have this partner in crime who is supportive and and adores you, and I know you adore him, but you live a life of joy. And I think
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't come from a buzz of adrenaline. I mean, I think you just want to be joyful in your life, and
share.
Yeah, and share that, So it's real, folks.
Purpose Driven Sobriety is an official corporation, which I don't know what God's going to do with it, but Baylor University is filing for our official 501c3. So we've applied to bring the Big Texas Rally for Recovery to Wake. So I'm just willing, and I'm just willing. That's what's in store for you. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I still have,
and it's okay not to know.
I still have my Beautiful Minds MCM business, and I'm seeing miracle after miracle where God's doing a lot of work.
Yes, you are.
And it's just baffling to me how that works and how He's working. And then I have my dyslexia therapy and training business, and that's growing too. And it's just like I'm gonna have to clone myself, I guess. But I have the connections that I'm making with people. It's so much more meaningful now, because I feel like a lot of, we were talking about this before and we're going over our time, but I don't have the shame that I used to have. And that's been a long road. That's really
happened over a lot has changed with you, within you in the past year. Too.
Yeah. And so it's been a 2-year process, but I've spent a lifetime, doing different things, and it's kind of, I just think that all the things, God was just making me ready and getting me ready. And I am so lucky and blessed to get up every day and do what I do every day. I love it. I love the connections that I make with people. It feels like a type of missionary work is what I feel.
Ministry.
Yeah, it's a ministry. And so I feel blessed in that, and it keeps me close to Him. It keeps, it's just like sponsoring somebody. You can't, transmit something you haven't got.
Right.
So if you're walking the walk, He'll send you the people, and you can learn from Him. But I don't know. I'm, Josie's still in school, and so she's my main interest and focus.
Right.
I love the career stuff that he's doing, but he keeps coming back to raise my daughter.
Right.
Raise my daughter.
Be an example.
I'm an example of how not to be and how to be some days. So.
Which is what she needs both.
And so I feel, and I love my husband. My husband is my rock. I am so thankful and grateful for him. I can't even believe how that God put that together.
Yeah.
You know, like he
Just
is
at the right time.
Yes. And can I share this about them?
Sure.
So he adopted her 3 years ago, March 5th. And he every year he gets her a card and he gets her a gift and he celebrates her. And it's apart from me.
It's amazing.
It is not. I'm not even involved. I mean, he doesn't even consult me. He just he looks forward to it every year, and it just the sweetest, most tenderest card that a man can write about his daughter.
That's amazing.
And they have this beautiful father-daughter relationship, and he will tell you, she is mine. She is my daughter.
That's beautiful.
And
he's a good guy.
Oh, he is a good guy. And so I'm really blessed by my family and my relationships.
Well, I know that God will use us to continue
For sure.
doing what we're doing as long as we keep up, our side of it. I mean, we do have a responsibility to keep those channels open for him. So make sure you check out, keep in touch on Facebook, Purpose Driven Sobriety. There's a private group, also Purpose Driven Sobriety, and then Christine Cohen, Koehn. Do you want to share?
BeautifulMindsMCN.org.
There you go.
Yeah.
Check that
and
out.
thanks everyone for listening. And I hope something we said was helpful for you. But you bless us by listening. So
God will use it.
yeah.
I love you.
I love you.
Thank you for listening to the Purpose Driven Sobriety Podcast. Keep coming back.
It works.
That's it. If you work it. Thanks for listening to Purpose Driven Sobriety. Keep coming back.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.